Guys, thank you and welcome for joining us on A Walk in My Shoes. Today, oh yes, we have a special guest with you today. So I want to introduce you, Christopher Hearn. He's from joining us from all the way from LA. Whoop, whoop. Christopher, thank you for joining us today and taking time to be with us. We greatly appreciate your time. So we're going to pick at you and just get as much information from you as we can. So let's start off with what do you do? What are you doing right now? Just an overview.
Yeah, of course. Nice overview. Of course, right now, the pandemic has changed a lot for a lot of us. But generally, I do social impact consulting for specifically like entertainment companies. And as we talk a little bit more, we'll see how I got, exactly to this space. But
yes,
I love for entertainment. I'm a music artist by passion, and that's what I've started out with. Has got me to a lot of the points of the platform that I have so far. So recently, for the last year or so, I've transitioned that into trying to challenge myself and other businesses or organizations that I'm associated with to how they can use their influence to start making impact in their communities or with whatever demographics are consuming their products. So now I kind of work with different companies to help people.
Oh, wow.
Activations that will
Oh, that's awesome. All right. So then, can you give us a typical day, like when you wake up, you don't have to go with a toothbrush and, washing your, but just as far as your job, what is it that you do in day to day?
Typical job on day to day.
Yes.
So funny, like to be candid, and again, we'll go back through this, but I moved to LA from New York almost a year ago, almost exactly 1 year ago. I think it was, well, June 13th of 2019 that I got out here. But I came out here. I was hoping that I would be able to find like a really cool job position doing something exactly like I wanted. And as I looked and I was searching, I kind of realized that to do exactly what I wanted to do would be a path that I almost had to kind of chart out on my own. A challenge to create. So far in Los Angeles, I found myself, for the last year, really settling into this consulting space, which is weird because I have control over my own schedule. Some days I feel like I'm doing nothing.
Some days you have too much.
I wake up, of course, I try to get up at a good time, quote unquote good. For me, hopefully if I'm out of the bed by, about 9 o'clock, that's fine. I go over to my laptop and I'll be working with a few different clients or groups. And this can range anything from a community group in Compton to a new tech company that's based in the Bay Area that I'm connected with via somebody from my alumni network. And I'm kind of talking to these people and they'll be at different stages in projects where either they will have expressed already a desire to have social impact implemented in what they're doing, or somebody will have recommended my name to them, or I will have reached out and found them myself and seen that whatever they have going on could really use an element of community impact. So I'll be responding to emails for probably the first few hours of the day, make sure I grab myself something to eat, and then I'll try to spend a few more hours really working on figuring out or really working on addressing specific projects that I'm actually doing at that moment. So whether that's putting together a slide deck or sending over recommendations or doing research that somebody has asked me to conduct, I'm actually doing the work for the next few hours. And then I try to end out the quote unquote work day by just really brainstorming and thinking about different ideas or different entities that have come on my radar throughout that work day. And I put those on like a list for the next day to follow up with or to reach out.
So when you work, are you working at home, or are you able to go to like, I don't know, a cafe area or I don't know, the beach or something?
Yeah. So I mean, there's of course life that exists prior to COVID and life that's existing.
Oh, that's right. That's another question.
Prior to COVID, it was definitely very, very community oriented. And sometimes I would be, so for example, sometimes I might be on contract with a company for 2 or 3 months, in which case I'll be actually going into that company. I'll have, a desk set up at that company. I'll be working with that company's team to develop whatever projects that I'm there to help out with. But in other situations, when I'm doing things more based around an event or with a company who's um, working from like a WeWork session or like a co-working session, I'll go there and meet up with that team. And if I'm not going up to meet up with a specific entity's team, I always try to take the opportunity to go to like a cafe that I have heard is really good, or a place that's like a community center, or like you said, a park. I try to find like hot spot or museums, which I love.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Anywhere where I can go and kind of sit down and meet cool people while I'm doing work is amazing for me because that's part of my job. I can't really recommend to somebody which community entities they should tap in with if I'm not tapped in with the community.
Exactly. Exactly. That's awesome. So the question you talk about COVID-19 is how did COVID, or did it impact you as far as like your job, or was just as far as locations?
Shut everything down within a span of 2 days. It shut everything down. I remember one of my good friends was having like a ski trip that we had planned years in advance, and it was very, very, very late February, early March. So we go on this trip, and from the day that I left to go to the trip to the day that I got back, everything had been either canceled, postponed. We're starting to see, city announcements about things shutting down. So I would say for the month of March, it was really, really challenging because I was kind of left with a blank slate. A lot of the work that I had already been contracted to do being shut down because a lot of those things were events focused. So now large gatherings of people were banned. But it's been really interesting since then because it's given me that time, that free time to really like, focus and nerd out on all the things that I find interesting. So
Exactly.
now that I had a clear slate, I was able to, like I was saying, research different entities and reach out to them with my entire own proposals, or just think about different historic things that have happened, social movements and things of the sort that can kind of help inform the work that I want to do and help other people do. So since then, things have balanced out. I've been able to get in contact with people and start helping out with projects, start working and developing projects. But it's definitely, COVID definitely changed the dynamic
Okay.
of the.
And I have a question. Why, like you said, from New York to LA, was there specific, just the weather? Was it or just the contacts? Or
The change?
yeah, yeah.
New York and LA are different. It's a different universe. New York, so the change from New York to LA for me really was an opportunity to one, unplug from an environment that I had been in for the past 5 years. I went to school in New York at NYU, and then I worked there for a year after school. And coming to LA, I moved out here and I stayed by myself. I lived by myself and I didn't have a lot of people who I was coming out here to meet. So just the change of environment was more of a mental shift for me. Of course, in the weather, of course, in, the lifestyle and the pace all factored into it. So it's definitely been a good transition, but I'm trying to keep some of that New York, the grind of New York,
Yeah, yeah,
kind
of
of
course.
hustle. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you guys are just joining on now on Walking My Shoes, you guys are listening Christopher Hearn. This show has been brought to you by AMP. Achieve more and prosper. So hashtag level up with AMP. Thank you for joining on with us. Christopher, let's go back. So let's go back as far as where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? Family, the whole thing. We want to know
For sure. I'm born and raised in Columbus, Ohio.
OH.
I-O. Born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. I went to Arts Impact Middle School and then transitioned there to Fort Hayes High School, which of course both schools have like a really serious art focus and give students the ability to think about, how creativity impacts all the other elements of their life. And I think that's kind of how I started to mess around with concepts of entertainment and using entertainment to build community. I come from a family of people who work in fields of service. My mother is a nurse and has been for her whole career. My grandmother was a librarian. My grandfather is a custodian. My aunts are cosmetologists and things of the sort. So I have my family it's always been oriented with the communities that we came up in and providing, positive services for people and creating those spaces. So growing up, I saw all those things around me and it impacted me, of course, and it conditioned my heart and my spirit to want to do those same things. In Columbus, when I was young, I started out as a hip hop artist. And again, like I said, I still am. And my experiences and kind of a lot of the adventures that I got to have as a music artist going around the city, performing at different venues, getting introduced to and being brought in different spaces really gave me the chance to one, establish a voice for myself, and establish, you know, myself as a figure who is able to contribute and help out in the communities, but it also gave me the chance to see behind a lot of curtains that some people know existed, just about the way that structures work and the way that things are organized. And I think all those things kind of informed the work that I'm trying to continue to
So
learn how
can
to
you
do.
give us maybe behind the curtains of like a music artist? Because when we see a music artist or hear about it, we're like, man, all they do is just perform, they just sing a song or do whatever, and
Yeah.
that's it. But what really goes behind the curtains as far as what do you need to
Yeah.
do, study, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say first of all that it definitely is going to be different based on what type of music artist you're dealing with and what things are important to them. For a lot of music artists, especially right now, with the technology available to us and kind of like the climate of the music industry, people can very much be people who only record and release music. They might record some social media content to keep people engaged, and that's kind of like the bulk of what they do. But other artists, I would say, like myself included, is again very much like a personal experience. So I focus more on the opportunities that I get to engage with people in a real life setting, which means that I'm thinking about how can I put together a listening party or how can I put together a community event where I'll also be able to share new music or share new things that I'm working on. How can I bring together different creatives from the community to have a good time and to share energy and knowledge with the children or different people
Yeah,
from
that's awesome. That is really
yeah.
awesome. So how much work, like, is there a lot of work you had to put into, or was it not work because it was a
Or
passion, or?
Nah, yeah, definitely. It's definitely work. I mean, passion always fuels it, but I think that anything substantial is developed through habits. And habits require work. So the passion might help you set the good habits of always wanting to uh, wake up and write a new verse or, go through different beats that are available to me and connecting with engineers to make sure that the mixes are correct. Setting up photo shoots to get things shot. So then this is just from an artist standpoint. Yes.
Yeah. Oh man. So,
Yeah.
like, did you know, like, this is what you wanted to do, or maybe I should say, when did you know? Like,
Yeah.
you said, what, this is it, or
Yeah.
were you still like, man, I don't even know?
I still am. I still am like I don't.
Hey, that's good. Be real with us. Be real.
I would say that when I was younger, the younger I was, actually, the more sure and determined I was, just because the idea of being a music artist is very cool. People get to know you, you get to perform, people tell you that you're cool, you get to go become rich, all these things. But for me, as I've grown up, it's become a lot more functional, and it's become a lot more of an one of the tools that I use to do the work that I want to do. So I don't see being a music artist as being my full identity. Um, because of course there's so much more to it, and there are a lot of ways that I can contribute and learn and help. But I definitely still see it as one of the essential things about me that give me the opportunity to learn and to communicate important messages to people.
Awesome. Awesome. So, I know with everyone who has like a vision or knows what they want to do, I know we all get to a point that we maybe are going downhill or hit rock bottom. Can
Sure.
you explain maybe or in details as far as when you maybe felt like, this is not me, or and how did you get out of there?
Absolutely. Being honest with yourself is how you get out of all the toughest situations.
That's good.
Then I'll go back and like speak personally, but just to like address that, I think being
No,
honest.
that's really good, being honest, because sometimes you're like, no, I'm good, but deep down.
Exactly. But your heart will never lie to you. So the conflict comes up when we try to deny a truth that we're either discovering or deny a truth that we have always known to be true based on the circumstances around us. But I I'll talk about my own personal journey. For me, the quote unquote rock bottom or the most difficult experience I've had as an artist is realizing a lot of the politics and a lot of the uh, show elements that go into being a music artist when I'm particularly and personally just more interested in connecting with people and sharing like a vulnerable experience and being able to create positive moments. So when you start to, I get the chance to visit certain record labels or be behind the scenes about discussions for marketing and what demographics we want to touch. I found myself questioning, do I even want to be a music artist? Do I even want to make music? Should I communicate my message in a different way? And what I had to get back to and realize is that just because the circumstances around you change doesn't mean the truth that you've always known to be true has also changed. So I've all
Ooh, that was good. Say it again. Say it again.
I've always known I've always known that I've had a gift and a responsibility to communicate messages. And just because I find out different, details or different challenges that might come along with that doesn't excuse me from doing what I've known, is important for me. And again, you might discover that there are other things that can be done along with it. But I think it's important for people to tap into and really discover what the truth is as it pertains to them and make sure that they follow those things regardless of what might change around them.
Man, that's good. I like that, Christopher. So, was there something or someone that you were accountable to or that helped you to stay focused and say, hey, snap out of it? This is
Yeah, God is
okay.
is like the main. God is who I'm accountable to, and then by extension, my family and my community and the people who love me and know me well. Because a lot of times we can get in our own heads when we have experience
Yes.
on our own. So it's always great to lean on people who you share intimate information with, or people who know you well because they can give you some perspective that you might not always see. So for me, it'll be one of my OGs from the barbershop, or my girlfriend, or my mother, or so many of the other amazing people in my life who I'll talk to, a good friend, and I'll express kind of this angst or this feeling of I don't know if I should do this anymore, and they're able to remind me about the important things that have always existed within me and around me that make what I'm doing important. Again, like regardless of new challenges that might pop up, and that gives.
So, does like when they talk to you and tell you, hey, Christopher, you're doing this, or you think you're all this, but honestly, how do you take that? How do you do you talk back, or do you let it soak in, or you know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not.
I try to always. I try, and I'm still trying to learn to actually listen. That's like a super underrated skill, to actually listen to people, especially when you're invested in what the conversation has. So we always enter a conversation with what we want to be true, and sometimes it can stop us from actually listening and digesting what other people have to say. So I try my best to listen, and then I can make the decision on my own about how much I agree with it or how much it resonates. But oftentimes I find that it does. And even if I'm not taking the entire message that somebody is giving me, there's always something in a conversation that can help you see something clearer than you did before. So
That's awesome. That all sounds being honest, being true to yourself is really good. That's mindful Monday. Yeah,
uh,
connect with yourself. So
uh,
Mondays at 9 a.m. with that.
yeah. That- How did I get selected to give a TED talk? That question is still, how did that? TED Talk, TED is a network of educators, yeah, leaders and people who are a- apparently seen to have, if not expertise, unique ideas about specific things that can kind of give people insight or important information to move off of. So, um, with that, they do like large conferences all over the world, but they also have smaller chapters in different communities called TEDx. And so, TEDx, there's a TEDx chapter in Columbus, Ohio, called TEDx King Lincoln Bronzeville. And that is the historically Black neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio, that has so much culture, so much history, and so many people who have kind of set the foundations for what Columbus as a city has become, all in this historically Black neighborhood. So the people who created this chapter wanted to be able to shine light on those who have connections to this community. Um, and my grandparents lived in that community and contributed to it for a long time, which is kind of how I drew my connection to it. And I applied. I was asked to apply to speak, and then I actually applied. They reviewed my application and decided that they would move forward with me, potentially being a speaker. And from there, starting from there, we started kind of a pretty rigorous process of me deciding what I would talk about, coming up with my talk, and then ultimately presenting it, which happened in winter of 2019. Mm. So what's next? Yeah, I would tell them first to relax, to exhale, just relax, because that phrase brings tension. Whether it's you asking yourself or somebody else asking, the phrase itself just brings tension. And in the rest of the TED talk, I go on to ultimately saying, hopefully, people think it's a little bit in more of an articulate way than what I'm about to say right now. But it doesn't matter what's next, because a lot of times when we ask ourselves what's next, we're asking ourselves, what am I about to do to prove to myself that I still have value, or that we're becoming a better person. And that shouldn't be a question that's in our minds. It's not our fault that it is, because it's the way that we're conditioned. But I would, if anybody was in that state of mind or in that space, especially like coming out of high school, it's important to think about what's next, and it's important to plan and those things. But I would just urge them to know that nothing about you is at stake while you're trying to figure this out. Your personal value, the amount of love or the amount of contribution that you are able to give to your community or people around you, none of that is at stake while you're deciding what's next. So exhale, relax,
Yeah.
and then you go back to the drawing board with a clear mind.
You guys got that? Relax. you know, it's easier said than done, I believe, because you were from Columbus, Ohio,
Right,
and then you went to New York,
right,
and then right now you're in LA.
yeah.
Would you ever imagine being where you are right now while you were in high school? Did you say, man, I'm going to make it big? This is what I'm going to do. This is.
Yeah, I did. I hoped it for myself. But the way that it's materialized has just been, of course, so much different than I could have ever expected. In high school, I thought that right now at 23, soon to turn 24, that I have already been a famous rapper by now. Like I thought that I would have already been
That's it.
millions of dollars, you know what I'm saying? Making it.
Christopher!
So thankful. I'm so thankful that my life has taken this path, because again, a lot of times the things that we imagine for ourselves are not necessarily the things that become important for us as we grow. So I allowed, that constant truth that was always within me, the desire to communicate a message, the desire to serve my people and my community. I allowed that to be the guiding light. And then my situations changed, and whatever circumstance ended up being necessary for me to fulfill those things, I said, so be it. I wasn't married to any vision of what I saw for myself, and it will change. You know what I'm saying? Of course, they
Yes, of
always,
course.
life is inevitable change. Like it's important to be willing to accept that change, because it allows you to tap into the best parts of yourself.
Man, that is awesome. Things change, but your goals, your visions, it stays the same no matter.
Yeah, just knowing who you are. Yep. And your vision or your goal for something might also change drastically. But again, there are parts of yourself and things that you feel like are important that will be essential and that can kind of guide you through those processes.
Man, that's awesome. Guys, you guys are listening to Christopher Hearn. We're taking a walk in his shoes. This is awesome. So we're going to have time for some questions. So if you're watching us, you can send a question in the comment, and we'll get that. But before we get to the questions, I have a couple of questions, so you could just finish the sentence. Let's see. Let's go. All right. My favorite place to eat in Columbus is...
Ooh, my favorite place to eat in Columbus is Press Grill. Right there on North High Street is by some of my favorite shops. Soul Classics. I used to work at Soul Classics, which is a sneaker boutique, and so in Short North in Columbus, Ohio, and on my break, I would run to Press Grill. Sometimes I'm making it sound better than it was. They would send me to Press Grill to pick up food for everybody.
Okay.
But, on a late night in the Short North, or when you're on your lunch break or whatever it is, Press Grill has great food. There are a lot of other great spots, but that place has a little bit of nostalgia for me, so I'll throw that in there.
All right, some Press Grill. So we got to try that out, guys. You in Columbus, Ohio, we got to stop and tell them Christopher Hearn sent us to Press Grill. A shout out. All right. My favorite superhero is...
My favorite superhero. I like the fact that I was not prepared for these. My favorite superhero is Spider-Man. My favorite superhero is Spider-Man because there have been so many different iterations of Spider-Man. So it kind of shows that Spider-Man could quote unquote be anybody. Which I know it's like a regular superhero trope, but there's something cool about Spider-Man being, just like a regular young kid and
Yeah.
doing what to stay true to his heart and give back to those people who he loves. He's very, very stands on what he believes in, even though he makes a lot of mistakes and is not, like
Yeah.
the smartest guy.
He takes responsible for being Spider-Man, but yet a kid at the same time.
I really like that. I like that.
Oh, that's awesome. So which Spider-Man do you like the best as far as the actor? Is there one?
Miles, of course.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Miles, the animated Spider-Man.
Oh, okay, yes. That was actually really good. Man, I loved it.
Yeah, that's my favorite. That's my favorite character, hands down. That's the one that I saw myself in most.
All right, so another question. I can never stop smiling when...
Can never stop smiling when I'm around my family.
Ooh,
Never stop smiling when I'm around my family. Yeah,
yeah.
it's like extremely, extremely challenging. A lot of times you'll learn about yourself, you'll learn things about your environment, you'll come back and you'll question, who am I? Am I doing what I need to be doing? Am I this? Am I that? But your family, it's kind of beautiful. There's something beautiful about your family that knows the essential parts of you, and can always remind you about, where you're safe and the
That's
direction.
good. Yeah, awesome. Family's really important. Yes, I smile too. Sometimes when I see them, sometimes when I'm on leave. All right, so here we go. If I had one wish, I would wish for...
If I had one for me personally,
Yes, you. This is you.
if I had one wish, I would wish for, um, yeah, what thing do I really want? If I had one wish,
All right, guys, we'll go on commercial break. We'll give them time to think.
if I had one wish, I'm just thinking about things that also have to do with family and also have to do. If I had one wish, I would have access to everybody who I love at all times. Like
Ooh,
I'll
all
be
right.
able, to see somebody.
Bam,
Make it
I'm
to,
there. Yes,
you
I'm there for
know,
Christmas.
ultimate access to everybody who I love. That's my one.
Ooh, that's good. Man, so you're really into like family. Family's really just important, and
Family.
that's awesome.
To be your best for those around. Yeah.
At the end of the rainbow, there is... That's the other question.
Peace.
Peace?
At the end of the rainbow, you find peace.
You find peace. All right.
Very difficult. Peace
I was
is
gonna
not the
say.
most important. You find it there.
All right, guys. So when you see a rainbow, it's supposed to rain today here in Columbus.
Yeah,
Let's go to peace, guys.
yeah, it's needed. It's needed.
It really is. It really is. What is your favorite food?
Macaroni and cheese, baked macaroni and cheese from my mom. Only my mom's baked
Ooh,
macaroni.
mac and cheese. So wait, is your mom is still in Ohio?
Yeah, my mom is still in Columbus.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So does she like mail you mac and cheese or how do you, like mom, please.
She doesn't mail me mac and cheese, and I'm
Oh.
sick. But she taught me her secret recipe, so I can make a knockoff version of my mom's mac and cheese. If I really get, if I'm really in need, but I can only really get it when I'm at home, and she makes it.
Yeah, it's so funny because like my mom would make a sandwich and I could make it, someone else could make it, but just something about when my mom makes it, it's like, man, this is the best.
That's a, that's a,
And see, my wife gets it like, I did the same thing. Yes, I know, I love you too. Oh man, that's funny. Okay, what is my dream vacation spot is?
my dream vacation spot is mm,
Is there
probably on the coast of West Africa.
the west coast of West Africa?
Somewhere on the coast of West Africa. Yep. Yep. I want to go. I've never been to Africa. I've had the opportunity to travel to a few different places internationally, mostly in Europe. And I've been able to be exposed to a lot of different cultures, but I think my dream vacation spot and a place where I'll find a lot of peace is somewhere on the
In
coast
West
of.
Africa. So that, have you seen this somewhere, or are you just like, I just want
Well,
to
I
go to
know,
West Africa?
you know what I'm saying? Being a Black American, I know that's where my people come from, whether that be
Yeah.
Nigeria. Again, like a lot of these places with beautiful beaches on West Africa. And again, I think that's something that I was talking to my girlfriend about this recently. Like that, we don't get taught about how beautiful beaches are in West Africa. When we think about the beach, we think about tropical islands, or we think about places in far off lands like in South America and things of the sort, or Santorini, Greece, but we don't think about how beaches in West Africa are. So I want to go. I think that would be one of my cool destination
So,
spots.
do you have like a timeline? Like, you saying in 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah, not facts. Yep, about 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was before again any of this COVID stuff hit. My dream was to make a trip with one of my friends who's from Ghana. I was gonna go spend some time with him in December of 2020 of this year. But of course, I don't think that will be happening. So I'm hoping that next year in 2021 I'll be able to make a trip.
Nice. So, do you like for your job? I don't know. Do you? Well, probably not now because of COVID-19, but travel as much? Like, you go to?
Yeah, not specifically for my job, but I love to travel, and like I have, of course, a lot of friends and people who I love in New York. I have a lot of family and people who I love in Columbus, Ohio. Now I have people who I'm connected to in Los Angeles. I have family in Virginia, so I find myself now as time goes on having a lot of different pockets in places across.
Oh yeah.
So I make my way. I try to my best to make my way around, and then if I can catch an event, or if I can try to meet up with somebody, or go check out an interesting place that I've heard about while I'm in a different space, that just makes it that much more of an incentive to travel. So,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That reminds me, we have a way we go at 11:30 on Mondays, and they just take us to, different destinations and places as far as. So you guys can check that out on Monday, 11:30, with Dan. So let's go with the question. Vector, can you give us a question somebody has given us?
Sure. All right. This question is from Whitney. It's how exactly did you transition from music artist to essentially creating your own business to utilize your specific skills for the things you're truly passionate about?
I'm still transitioning. I'm still learning.
Hey, keep it real. Keep it real.
I think that's really, really, really extremely important is that people feel like there's a level of qualification or there's a point where you transition and say, wow, I made it now. That's absolutely not the case. I know that I'm able to articulate well, so a lot of things probably sound a lot cooler to y'all than how they might look in real life. But the one thing that I would say, like an actual response now to that question, is that truly believing in myself and knowing that I'm not excluded from anything that I think is cool or possible. So I saw myself as a music artist, and I also realized that I was interested in engaging with different corporations or engaging with different entities from a creative and from like a social impact space. And I wanted to be able to interact in those spaces. And I told myself that I was allowed to do that. And it starts out with reaching out to learn. That's extremely important. If you can reach out to somebody just to learn or to understand something more, not only do you gain more information, but you gain a real connection with
Yeah,
somebody and
right.
know that you care about it. So when they have an initiative come up, or when they have somebody else bring up a topic to them, you might be in the back of their mind to be brought in for a project, and and then the wheels start to roll from there.
That's awesome. All right.
Second question is, if you could have dinner with any celebrity, living or dead, who would it be?
If I have dinner with any celebrity, living or dead, who would it be? I think I would probably have dinner with and like old historical figures count as celebrities as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. I think I would have dinner with Moses. And I think I'll have dinner with Moses because, of course, he had a very specific mission that was set for him. And he went through a lot of trials and tribulations and just had a pretty dramatic life. I would love to get some insight from him and to hear a lot more about how he was able to use his discernment and connection to God to make sure he tapped into what his life's purpose was. So, yeah.
So you'd be getting some of that manna bread? Is that what?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what be on the menu for dinner.
That's right. You'd be right between the ocean, the sea. All right, that's awesome. So
It,
Moses,
it sounds like you have a really good support system. What advice do you have for people who don't have a support system and for those to build their own support system?
The biggest benefit that comes from having a good support system is for me personally has been the belief and true understanding that I'm a valuable person and that what I care about matters. So for those who don't have a support system, and you're listening right now, of course you might not know me personally, and whatever I say might only hold so much weight to you, but I can promise you from all the experiences that I've had from the people who I've interacted with that if you have a true heart and you care about helping people and being of a positive benefit to others, everything that you want to do is not only valuable but needed. So from there, you now have the green light to go create and curate a support system. Again, by showing interest in different places and being brave enough to kind of step out on a whim. And again, that's why I wanted to establish value at first, because a lot of times we can wonder, am I worth this person's time? Or if I reached out to so and so or went here and asked for this, would they even care about me? Would they even want to talk to me or hear from me? But I promise you, there's a special provision made for people who don't have support systems, who show that they truly want to learn about things and that they want to have mentors and people around them who want to help, and that energy is picked up on and it's reciprocated. So know that you already have the path to go and recruit whatever support system you want.
that's awesome. Green light means to go. That's aw-
What is your favorite thing about what you do?
My favorite thing about what I do is that I know that I am stumbling and trying my best to fulfill the responsibility given to me by God, and that I also get to return the grace that I've been given and the mercy that I've been given by God, and just in the world and in my life in general to other people. I feel like when you make your main goal to be of help and benefit to people who need help, your life changes. It's a lot more challenging because you realize a lot of ways that you might not have been helpful, or you realize a lot of ways where you have been allowing things to slide or whatever, and it's kind of like a an ongoing education and self critique process. But it's very fulfilling because you know in your heart that you are trying to use everything you have to create a better situation for other people around you, and you will never ever ever go without. So that's my favorite thing about what I do. I know it's important.
Yeah. So what would you tell yourself, now that you know what you know now, what would you tell yourself in high school? Something that you would just, hey, you know what, young Christopher, let me slap you around a couple of times. Let me tell you something.
I tell myself to be humble, to be humble, to be humble, to again focus on the most essential parts of yourself, Chris, and always, always, always listen to them. There's a part of life that we all have to go through where it's going to be learning from mistakes, and that's really just life in general. But so much of the stress, so much of the worry, so much of the conflict that I've experienced in my life have been from situations where I allowed my environment or somebody else's opinion to impact and influence what I did in contrast to what I already knew was true about myself. So knowing and following, the truths that only you really know about yourself will always get you where you need to go. Don't worry about it. That's what
All right. Did you hear that, young Chris?
and just do what you already know is right.
Victor, do we have another question, or how many more do we have? We have a couple of time.
Some in the chat. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. How important is social media for you, and where can we follow you on social media?
If you'd have asked me this maybe like 3 months ago, I would have said social media was extremely important. I'm trying to develop a platform. I think it's important to be able to spread, knowledge and information. But now, personally, today, right now, importance of social media, I think is always up in question. It's potentially useful, depending on what people might want to do. But I don't think social media is necessarily vital for any work that somebody wants to do, or as effective as you want to be. But with that being said, I definitely try to use my social media and trying to use my social media to promote important messages and to help educate myself and other people. So if anybody, and to stay connected too. So if anybody wants to connect with me and discuss or just see what I have going on, they can follow me on social media at Seize the World, and that's at CEEZ the World.
All right. So if we can maybe write that on the chat, and then so they can just check it out, Vector or David. Seize the World. So SEEZ.
CEEZ. CEEZ. The world. Yep.
Easy.
CEEZ. Yep.
Oh, CEEZ.
So,
This is not easy for me right now. Oh man! All right, so that's good. So that's the way. You guys can check them out on Seize the World. And Chris, I want to thank you again for taking time, a part of your day, to join us and let us know that you're, just your whole background, to find out what's behind the curtains, and not just all sunshine and flowers.
right. But it's all worth it, most definitely. And I appreciate you all for having me on and allowing me to, share my thoughts.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say, or any shout outs to anything or anything?
Yep. Shout out to all the Black women who have held me down always in my life. Shout out to God. Thank you for always giving me grace. Be patient, be humble with the people who you interact with. Make sure you are always willing to educate yourself, and know that it's always love. You're worthy, no matter how difficult or dark things get. It's so important that you exist, and you have something really seriously important to contribute. So stay the course.
All right, guys. Well, you guys heard it from Christopher himself, Christopher Hearns. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for joining us on A Walk in My Shoes. Thank you for letting us walk in your shoes. Be safe. Wash your hands, cover your mouth. You know the new norm.
I appreciate y'all. I
All
appreciate y'all.
right, man. Thank you so much, Christopher. Have a good day, man. Be blessed.
All right. Peace.
All right.